Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. My name's Morgan Colby. As always, Rick Lemon right across from me.
What's up, y'all?
Well, more like to the left, really, not across.
Dude, you know what? I think you've just been too lit lately.
Yeah, too much. It is Tuesday, May 14th, 2019, and OTAs start this week.
It feels like, each year it feels like football is becoming baseball, where it's just like 9 months.
Yeah, no, it is 9 months.
It's insane.
Legitimately. I don't know. It's the off season's 9 months, I should say. But yeah, the NFL is way too short.
Too short?
Well, the pomp and circumstance surrounding the NFL ain't too short, but the actual season itself is kind of short. Not kind of. It definitely 20 weeks, 21 weeks, maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, would you rather it be baseball and it's dragged out for like 7 months?
No, all set. They could use a couple extra games, though. A couple extra regular season games.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate that.
Add me 2 weeks of fantasy football.
2 more weeks of you talking smack.
Yeah. On this episode of the Fantasy Champions Podcast, we will give you our top 10 running back rankings. Next week, we'll give you 11 through 20. But first, before we get into that, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and like us on Facebook. Twitter at the FF Champs, Instagram at the Fantasy Champions, and Facebook.com/the Fantasy Champions. Subscribe wherever you listen: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube. Leave a review. Click the bell for notifications on YouTube, and share this podcast with your friends. Let's get to the news. Doug Baldwin put out this long, drawn-out Twitter/Instagram post about not playing football again. So I'm going to assume that he's retiring, just like everyone else.
What? I thought he was going to the CFL.
Yeah, I thought he was going to go to the CFL. Doug Baldwin has retired. This is one of the most overhyped fantasy football wide receivers I have ever heard of in my entire existence. Him and Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
Those guys just... Doug Baldwin was a good regular wide receiver, like in real life, but like as far as fantasy football is concerned, he was completely worthless at most times.
He was overrated. He was.
Yeah, very overrated.
And Allen Robinson is too. I think he had like one good stretch with Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And it was just like people think he's like
No,
amazing,
it's true. It's true. But Doug Baldwin retiring from the NFL. I think it's amid injuries.
Yeah.
He had concussions and all kinds of other injuries that kind of forced him to retire. This is fantastic news for Metcalf lovers.
Yeah, it's true.
They are absolutely pumped about Baldwin leaving. I still don't think it means absolutely anything.
I think it does mean something.
You know what I was thinking about the other day? You know how the Seattle Seahawks last year, and I was looking up some of the statistics, and it's so true. Last year, Seattle was the league's most efficient offense, and it wasn't like super like amazingly productive, but what they did with the little amount of attempts they had, at least passing the ball, was absolutely insane.
Passing-wise.
Yeah, passing-wise. Was absolutely insane. And so you can't assume that continues. So they're either going to pass it more, or they're going to go back to what it was supposed to be, which is not hyper efficient. And if that's the case, guys like Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, bless you.
Oh, thanks.
Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf aren't going to be like these big receivers that everyone expects.
No, but I think
them
they
to be.
will throw it more, a little bit. I mean,
I wouldn't doubt it.
If you're like Pete Carroll and you look at the numbers last year and you're like, well, we ran the ball like 30,000 times, but when we threw it, we actually did pretty good.
Success.
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at that and be like, maybe we should throw it a little more. We do have Russell Wilson.
Right. The Patriots signed Benjamin Watson, who retired and then came back, and then retired and then came back. So Ben Watson is a New England Patriot. Who's the main tight end in New England? ASJ, Austin Seferian-Jenkins, or Ben Watson?
Man, this is the tight end battle I've been waiting for in New England.
Of my life, and they're all going to get like 20 targets.
Yeah, I think it's probably
it's
going to be passing wise. It'll probably be Benjamin Watson, but even then, I don't know. I don't trust either of those guys, honestly, at all. I know some people are a big fan of Mr. Jenkins, but
I do like Austin Seferian-Jenkins, but there is some rumors floating around. Speaking of the Patriots tight end position, that Kyle Rudolph could be traded.
Now here's a guy in the famous words.
Now here's a guy that he could be traded to the New England Patriots. If that happens, he obviously becomes the clear number one. But what is his fantasy value pegged at for you?
I think he becomes...
If he gets traded.
I think he becomes the fourth tight end in fantasy.
Wow. I mean, Tom Brady does like to throw to
I'd put him... I'd still, Kettle... Or I said Kettle. George Kittle, Kelsey, and Ertz, I think, are obviously ahead of him, but I would honestly put him 4.
Patriots signed Dontrell Inman as well. The second wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts last year. His contract was up. He signs a 1-year deal with the Patriots. The Patriots have now 25 receivers at this point.
0 to 100 real quick.
And they have all literally every single one of the wide receivers they have could reasonably make the team. So they have actually a really good crop of wide receivers. There are we're Patriots fans, so there are people in New England that are saying the Patriots wide receiver core sucks, or then you got the other side of the argument where they're the best wide receiver core of all time. So that's a little sweaty. But Dontrell Inman signs with the Patriots, 1-year deal. And then finally, Devonta Freeman says he's going to be ready, or Dan Quinn said he's going to be ready for training camp.
Good news.
This is great news. Freeman is one of the most underrated running backs right now. More specifically because he's a guy who has for 2 seasons or something like that. He was a top 5 running back or top 10 running back, something like that. Yeah, he was
top 10. Yeah.
And so he was a really good running back, extremely efficient, scores touchdowns. He does everything a top 10 running back will do. He's a workhorse, 3-down back, can catch the ball, everything. And people are just completely forgetting about him because he got injured.
That's because Tevin Coleman outplayed him.
Yeah. Coleman leaves, and now you got Ito Smith. It's a better situation for Freeman than it was even before. Yeah. And so it's to get him in the 4th round is absolutely crazy to me. And I think it'll move up a little bit, but I don't think he moves into the 2nd round at all.
No, he's not.
And the fact that you could get a top 10 running back in the 3rd round is kind of tantalizing.
Bro, stop talking. That was my plan to take him. Now he's going to move up in drafts.
Take Devonta Freeman in the 3rd round. Let's move in to our early 2019 running back rankings. We will discuss the early rankings for this, so don't judge us based on our early rankings, because these will change. Over the next 2 episodes, we're going to discuss the top 20 ranked running backs. So Tuesday, we'll discuss 1 through 10, and then 11 through 20 on Thursday. So let's get started. We have a lot of running backs to work through, so it should be interesting.
But what wins you leagues in fantasy?
Tight ends and kickers.
No, it's obviously defense.
It's obviously defense. Obviously running backs win you leagues if you select them right. We have some disagreements in terms of where some of these guys land. Mm-hmm. Not in the top 3, or top 4, I should say. I know that the fantasy football community will have some things to say about some of our rankings. But to start it off, everyone's 101, everyone's first overall draft pick. If you're sitting at 1 and you don't take this guy, you have no idea what you're doing with fantasy football.
Wow. That's
Saquon Barkley is the number 1. He's going, I think him and Zeke are tied at 102 right now, according to Fantasy Football Calculator. But Saquon Barkley is our number 1 ranked running back. I have him ranked 1. You have him ranked 1. ECR has him ranked 1. Everyone has him ranked 1. Saquon is just that good. I remember I wrote an article a month after the season ended, right before the Super Bowl or something like that, And it was about my top 10 running backs at the time, and I looked at it the other day and I was like, wow, how things change in like 3 months.
Well, yeah, that's why we'll probably look back on this show.
Yeah, and be like, wow, what the heck were we doing? But Saquon Barkley was my number 2 running back behind Todd Gurley. And I said if anything is wrong with Gurley's knee, Saquon will probably move into that one spot. I just think he's dynamic, talented. He doesn't really do anything wrong. And he's going to get, like, you lose Odell Beckham, right? You lose Odell Beckham. You still got Evan Engram. Your offensive line, you added some pieces to the offensive line, and they drafted a crappy quarterback, and they're going to go with Eli for like 3 years.
Dude, Daniel Jones is not crappy.
I like Daniel Jones, actually, but
he's
that point. Barkley is the man. Mm-hmm. He's the most talented piece in that offense, and they're going to use him. My only concern is that Saquon Barkley, knock on wood, gets hurt. That's the only concern for me at this point. If he stays healthy the entire season, he'll be a top 2 running back, easy.
Yeah, you can say that about every running back, though.
Yeah, that's
my
true.
concern is he'll get hurt.
Alvin Kamara, my concern is that he'll get hurt. I try not to think about it when I...
Right. So, and Barkley, doesn't really have much of an injury history at all.
Yeah.
So I don't think you have to worry too much about it. I don't think there's too much to be said here. Barkley is one of my favorite. You know this. He's one of my favorite guys in the league to watch. He's extremely talented. They're going to use him a crap ton. And I think he's probably, with Gurley's knee and Zeke eating too much Chick-fil-A, I think is kind of the clear.
Listen, Zeke can eat as much Chick-fil-A as he wants.
I think Barkley, though, is kind of very early, but has kind of taken the lead as the clear number 1 fantasy running back.
We'll talk about this in a second, when we get down that far to Todd Gurley. But Todd Gurley was the 101. He has been the 101 the last 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
He's finished as a number 1 running back. And had he played the 2 games this past season to end the season, I think it was week 16 and 17, had he played those 2 weeks, Todd Gurley probably would have finished 60 to 75 half PPR points ahead of the entire field of running backs. And that's how good Todd Gurley has been over the past few years. So I don't know, like, do you see Barkley being that guy that as the first overall pick, definitively, like last year, people who picked Todd Gurley with the first overall pick were like, yeah, Todd Gurley is going to be the best running back in fantasy football, which he was.
Yeah.
Do you see Todd Gurley being that guy, or is there any doubt in your mind that he could end up 3 or 4 on that list?
You mean Barkley?
Barkley, sorry.
Yeah, I think he could be 3 or 4 on that list. But I think out of every guy out there, he also, I think, has the best chance of being a guaranteed top 2 or top 3.
Yeah. I mean, the role's expanding. There's nothing really bad you can say about Barkley at this point. Like, I try my hardest to find something bad about every running back except for Zeke. He can eat as much Chipotle as he wants, or Chick-fil-A, or whatever.
I mean, whatever day of the week it is,
whatever he's eating, just keep doing whatever you're doing, Zeke. I think we shared that picture from his Instagram on Twitter.
Oh yeah,
he looked like he gained like 25 pounds. Like I literally follow like Le'Veon Bell and like a bunch of big backs on Instagram. They're all like working out right now, like training for the season, and then like Zeke's having dinner with his friends every night.
I mean, it's been working for him.
Whatever works. So Saquon Barkley is ranked number 1 on our list. Number 2, Alvin Kamara. This is a little bit surprising. I had him ranked 2. You have him ranked 2. ECR has him ranked 3. The only reason why I personally, and you can discuss why you put him 2, because I was actually kind of shocked you put him 2 as well. Maybe it was because of the Zeke Chick-fil-A thing. I don't know. But Alvin Kamara, to me, looking at what he did over the course of 4 weeks now it's a small sample size, very, very small sample size. But looking at what Alvin Kamara did over the first 4 weeks of the season without Mark Ingram in the lineup was absolutely insane. He was averaging like 26 fantasy points a game.
Yeah.
And like, he was on this pace. I think I prorated it out where he was on pace for like 400 fantasy points or something ridiculous like that. And so Alvin Kamara, he's not going to, get 400 fantasy points next year because Mark Ingram's not there. But he is now the workhorse. Like, they are not splitting snaps. They're not splitting snaps. They're not.
Dude, what do you mean, Latavius Murray, bro?
Latavius Murray. Yeah, no. But Alvin Kamara is the feature 3-down back in New Orleans. And if he does anything close to what he did over the course of those 4 weeks, he to me is the number 2 running back in fantasy. And for a guy that is the number 2 running back in fantasy and coming off the boards with the 4th or 5th pick in the draft, like right now, it is a dead heat tie according to the fantasy football calculator of who goes 3 between Kamara and Christian McCaffrey. And it's like, if you can get Kamara with the 4th or 5th selection in the draft, I mean, why not?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You literally are getting a guy that I think could finish as the number 1 running back this year. He has an extremely high ceiling in the next season. If he stays healthy, which is, the key words with running backs, he can do that.
Mm-hmm. And now I think it should be noted that we are talking about half PPR.
Yes.
Alvin Kamara, for me, kind of to what you said, he has a chance now to show everybody that he can be the guy. Mark Ingram's not there anymore.
Yeah.
I think Murray will get a few touches, but he's not going to get as many as Mark Ingram did. Mm-hmm. Kamara's going to be the focal point of that offense, and I think he honestly has RB1 ceiling of being the number 1 guy in all of fantasy this season. And the reason I put him at 2 was not because of that, was because of Zeke and his eating habits. No, but honestly though, Kamara, I love Kamara.
Yeah.
So much.
I mean, I think in terms of like the biggest thing for running backs is
opportunity.
Opportunity, yeah. The biggest thing for the biggest statistic for running backs is rushing touchdowns.
Yep.
Or rushing and receiving touchdowns together. And that was something that Mark Ingram vultured off of Kamara. Like, they would put Mark Ingram in to give him a different look, and I think Latavius Murray will do some of that, but not to the level Mark Ingram did. And so I think Kamara should see an increase not only in production on the ground and in the air, but in terms of yardage, but he should also see an increase in the amount of carries he gets in the goal line and how many touchdowns he has at the end of the season. So I think if that happens, Kamara can and will finish as the number 1 running back in fantasy, which I think, like I said, if you're getting in the 4th or 5th overall pick and that's the guy you're getting, that's absolutely amazing. Ezekiel Elliott is the number 3 guy on our list. You had him 3, I had him 3. Too much agreeing. Even the next one we agreed on, and I'm kind of surprised by that. But Ezekiel Elliott, I've talked about this man before. He is my man's. He's Zeke.
Oh, yeah, he's your guy.
I love Ezekiel Elliott. ECR has him number 2. I think he's getting slightly overhyped right now. The big thing about Ezekiel Elliott is that he can finish as the 3rd best running back in fantasy football and only score like 10 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
He puts up like 600 receiving yards and like 1,400 like rushing. It's like literally he could put up 200 fantasy points just on yardage.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's Zeke.
And correct me if I'm wrong, he doesn't really get injured.
No, but I mean, he hasn't really had any problems. He had a few like minor issues, but nothing really damaging to his career, I guess. But one thing about Ezekiel Elliott, and I don't understand this about Dallas. Hopefully they fix it. I don't know if that's going to happen with Amari Cooper there, but Ezekiel Elliott needs to be utilized in the red zone more often. And I said it on this podcast before. Ezekiel Elliott, the one problem with him last year, and the reason why I felt like almost like I got burnt with him, even though he finished 4 or something like that.
He was pretty.
It was
high.
because he consistently did a number 4 finish on a night-to-night basis, or not a night-to-night basis. I'm talking about fantasy baseball, but a week-to-week basis. Zeke would put up 14, 15 fantasy points, which was good. But you were looking for, from your guy that you're drafting at 1, 2, 3, or 4, you're looking for 25 to 30 point games every once in a while. And Zeke only had I think he only had 4 25 plus point games last year, which is when you're drafting that, for me, I love to have a guy who can do what Barkley did, where he had 20-plus points a bunch of times last year.
Yeah.
And it's like Zeke was consistent at doing what he did, but it was just the touchdowns that was the hurdle that he had to jump over, and he never jumped over it. And so in the end, for me, if you give this guy the ball in the red zone, and he gets in 15 to 20 times next year, not even just on the ground, when you know through the air. If he gets it into the end zone 15 to 20 times next year and does the same thing on the ground, the guy's going to be an absolute machine. And I think that's what I'm hoping for Zeke. I just don't believe in the Dallas coaching staff at all to be able to figure that out.
Yeah. I mean, I like Zeke too for this year. Not nearly as much as you, not even halfway as much as you. But I do.
If I could put Zeke at 1, I would do it.
Yeah. I do like him. I think he's going to be top 5, and I think he's kind of a safe pick too. If you're sitting there at 3 or 4 and Zeke's on the board, you take him. You know he's going to be top 5.
Yeah, right now.
You know you're getting an RB1 out of it.
Right now he's projected 102. Right next to, he's basically tied with Barkley right now. So there's some, as much as I hated on people for not taking Barkley 1, which I would still hate on them for doing it.
That's just rude.
I do think Zeke is getting overhyped, but
I do agree with that, though. He is getting
how much is overhyped between 1 and 3? You know what I mean? Like,
that's a good point.
Like, I think he should be the 3rd running back off the board, but he's going 1. My God.
And I've said this before. If you have one of the first 6 or 7 running backs off the board this year, I think you're getting an RB1.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, you're getting a legit running back.
The one thing before we move on to number 4 is the one thing that I've realized over the past few years about fantasy football is that talent does matter for running backs. I think it does a little bit. But in terms of look at Jordan Howard. Is Jordan Howard talented to you?
He's okay.
So the fact that he can finish as the 9th or 10th best running back, he finished 9 in 2 years ago, 10th a year ago, and then last year he finished as the RB20, where it started to show that he really couldn't do it that much.
Yeah.
But if you get the opportunities, you can turn them into production.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. That's why when you look at the top 6 running backs coming off the board, you're not really that wrong. It's when you start stepping into the water of taking a wide receiver in the first round is where you start to enter into bust territory. But like last year, most of the first round, besides Le'Veon Bell, who held out the entire year, it's not like he sucked. He just held out. So people were like, oh, Le'Veon Bell was a bust. No, he really wasn't a bust. He just didn't come and play football. Him and David Johnson, who was drafted as a top 3 back, those are the only 2 guys that really kind of fell out of it. And if you were paying attention at the time to understand that the coaching system in Arizona wasn't going to fit what David Johnson was trying to do as a running back, and it would take them all season to figure it out, which is what happened. Don't get me wrong, David Johnson did not have, we'll talk about it later, but it's one of those things where you literally you have to look at the situation and understand who you're picking. And there are obviously guys in the first round that I'm staying away from and guys that I'll draft, but you really can't go wrong with the top 6 picks. Unless somebody gets hurt, there's nothing these guys are going to be good. They got their opportunity. They're talented. That's what's going to happen.
I wasn't joking when I said it's all about opportunity.
Number 4 on our board, Todd Gurley. Girls. I love girls. He's my boy.
Well, that's you love girls, but he's your boy?
Zeke and Gurley are the 2 running backs that led me to almost a championship 2 years ago. And I was
almost. We'll give
everyone got benched in week 17.
We'll give you a little candy ring that says almost champion.
We will talk about league rules for one episode during the off season, but do not do a week 17 championship. It's the most ridiculous thing. Both of us have been robbed of a championship because of a week 17. I'm a commissioner and I chose that. Never again. Todd Gurley is the number 4 running back on our draft. On our rankings. That was hard to say. I'm 4. Rick's 4. The ECR is 7 on Todd Gurley.
That is interesting.
So people have run very far away from Todd Gurley. Even I've seen some experts rank him 8, 9, 10, 11, maybe even 12.
Wow.
Here's the thing with Todd Gurley. I was getting nervous when they drafted Darrell Henderson. Darnell Henderson. One of those two names. Don't know if that's true or not. Henderson's a really talented running back. I watched a bunch of film on him. I really liked him, and I was hoping he wouldn't go to a situation where he would get completely buried somewhere. He's going to be buried. I think they're going to utilize Henderson in a very specific role, and I think the reason why I'm not nervous about drafting Todd Gurley, and I'm a little bit, because of if his knee acts up or he tears his ACL in any form, I will be so mad. But I'm not afraid of drafting Todd Gurley, and I'll tell you why. Because Todd Gurley, even if you give Darrell Henderson 5 to 7% of whatever Todd Gurley got last year, 5 to 7% of his touches, maybe 7 to 10 of his touches, he still finishes as a top 3 running back.
Yeah.
And it's like unless there is something so wrong with Todd Gurley's knee that he literally can't play anymore, which I think a lot of people at this point in time, the last 2 games, the NFL is what have you done for me lately? And the last 2 games that people remember are the 2 games where Todd Gurley choked.
Jobs.
I think Todd Gurley choked in the playoffs because he's soft. I don't think that was because of his knee. I think he just completely disappeared. He was in that Super Bowl. He had a couple of nice runs in that Super Bowl, but wasn't able to produce. And it's like Todd Gurley, the last time he produced a normal game was when him and C.J. Anderson went off in that first-round playoff game against the Cowboys.
I'm excited to see Gurley play this year because I think he might have a little chip on his shoulder.
Yeah.
And as you said, Gurley was so darn good last year that even with the arthritis in his knee, I'm surprised that he's going so low.
Yeah.
I mean,
I love to be a Todd Gurley lover.
Yeah.
But to have him all the way down at 7, 8, or 9 is crazy.
Even especially once you started saying 10, 11, that is, things might change in a few months. Maybe we'll get reports that Gurley can't even move anymore and all that stuff. But
yeah, obviously.
But as of today,
he slid right down because of stuff like that, though.
Yeah, you are right with that. What have you done with me lately? Because people that see arthritis in his knee, people see he choked in the playoffs.
Yeah.
People saw the TMZ video where he looked like he may or may not have been limping.
Overrated.
Each thing has been going down with Gurley, and people forget just how good he was last year.
Yeah.
In, 14 games?
Yeah, 14 games.
Come on.
He led half PPR in standard formats.
He could be higher on our rankings.
And he was second in PPR. He was second in PPR behind Saquon Barkley, and he only played 14 games.
The only reason I even have him at 4 is because of the concerns with his knee.
Yeah.
And the potential of injury. But
he would still be second or third on my list at this point.
Yeah.
Maybe he would be 1 if the knee injury wasn't even a thing. And so Todd Gurley is that good. Now, the plus to having people overreact to Todd Gurley is the fact that he is, according to the Fantasy Football Calculator, going 109 right now. So if Todd Gurley is going at the back end of the first round and you draft him and he's anything like he was last year, you just got your second or third best money. Yeah. It's a major, major draft pick. And all of these people who are sitting here going, oh my God, Todd Gurley, his knee injury, it's bothering me. I'm scared to draft him. Yeah, they're going to be very, very mad. They're going to be like,
wow,
why did I not just do it?
So you can tell who loves Todd Gurley.
I do. And as far as the Henderson stuff, because we have to move on to somebody that we actually disagree on. Todd Gurley, as far as the Henderson stuff, I think Henderson was brought in for a very specific role. And I think the reason why they brought him, I think he is going to take stuff away from Todd Gurley. I think that the people, what I've noticed is that people coming out of the draft are overhyping, especially the dynasty community, are overhyping the effectiveness of rookies at this point. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to have, you might have a couple of running backs. Josh Jacobs or David Montgomery or Miles Sanders. Those guys might come out and be good. But outside of that, Metcalf and, the wide receivers that came out this year, they're just not going to be up there. You know what I mean? You expect to have those guys as wide receiver 2s. Expect all the running backs in this class to be running back, not all the running backs in the class to be RB2s, but the highest rookie running back lands to be an RB2. The hype has gone out of control with some of these guys, including Henderson, who was drafted in the 3rd round. I'm like, okay, awesome. He was a 3rd round running back, but what does that actually mean for the Rams? So I think with Henderson, they brought him in for a specific role, and he's very similar to Todd Gurley. His play style, he's an all-purpose back. He does everything well. He's talented. I think this is fire insurance in case something happens to Gurley. If Gurley tears his ACL, honestly, if he tears his ACL in the knee that he has arthritis in, he's done. It's over. Like that's he can't. He's not going to be able.
They do need insurance for him though.
So I think, but that's what they're trying to do right now is they're trying to get the neck because Gurley already has injury problems, and he's got arthritis in his knee. I think this is like, okay, Gurley has 2 or 3 more seasons left, but let's bring in Henderson and let him go. Mm-hmm. So Todd Gurley's going to be fine. I think he's got 1 or 2 seasons left in him, and that's why I have him ranked 4. I think it's an overreaction to think Henderson's going to just come in and steal 20% of his snaps. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Christian McCaffrey is number 5. I had him at 6. You have him at 5. Mm-hmm. The ECR has him at 4.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
A little bit higher.
Is this half PPR?
Yes.
Okay.
So I ranked him at 6. Only because I like Melvin Gordon more than Christian McCaffrey. I think Christian McCaffrey has a ceiling that can't be passed. And I felt like that for like this year. Do you realize how much Christian McCaffrey was utilized in the Carolina Panthers offense? And he still finished as like the 5th back. I think he has limitations to how high he can actually land on. Now, I could be wrong. Next season he could finish as like the number 1 running back in fantasy. Who knows? But I just feel like he has this ceiling of like he's not going to be able to crack that top 2, that the people ahead of him, and I'll take Gurley off this list for sake of, everyone disagreeing, but, Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara, and Zeke Elliott, like, unless those guys vanish into some kind of thin air, Christian McCaffrey will never enter into a top 3. And, like, that's just how I've always felt. Yeah. Like, I almost want to put him in my tier 2 because, like, my number 1 running back in my tier 2 because I just don't know if he's that guy. Now, he bulked straight up in the offseason. Like, he's big. But, hey, he could be too big. Can't carry the ball anymore because his arm's too thick. I don't know. But I have Christian McCaffrey 6, specifically because I think McCaffrey I think he has a ceiling, and what you saw this year was the ceiling, McCaffrey hitting the ceiling. It was the best he could possibly produce.
So you're talking to the biggest McCaffrey lover
as I say that
in the universe.
He's making faces.
Look, I mean, I get your point, but I love myself McCaffrey. I was tempted to put him like number 3, half PPR. Yeah, I was tempted.
Wow.
I mean, one of the things what I love about McCaffrey is, especially in half PPR and full PPR, he's gonna get mad catches. He's gonna get a ton of catches. He's going to be, as you said, involved in the offense. He bulked up this year. I mean, he's never, knock on wood, he's never had a big injury in his career.
Yeah.
Or really an injury history in general. It doesn't exist for him, which is odd because he's a small running back. Every single week, he'll get you.
He's still bigger than most, though.
He is. But for like a workhorse type back,
He's a tiny bit small for a workhorse role, but I used to think that too until I actually looked at his measurables, and I was like, he can be a workhorse. He's fine.
Yeah.
He'll be fine for now. He is, like I said, he's a Smith. Like, his career will probably be shorter than some of the bigger guys up here just because of his size. Fair. Like, you remember Wes Welker? He was so small and he got hit so much that his career lasted like 12 years.
No, not even.
Yeah, I know. But I gave him a couple.
Yeah. But, I mean, I kind of agree with you. I don't ever see McCaffrey being the number 1 guy in fantasy ever, but like again, he's similar to Zeke. If you take him, like you're getting, in my opinion, an RB1, a top 6 RB in the league for sure.
And he's one of the guys at the top that's like a lock too.
Yeah, and week in and week out, he'll get you double-digit fantasy points. He will, and most of those guys in the top 6 will as well. Yeah, but I think McCaffrey, out of everybody, like his worst weeks are like 12 fantasy points.
Right. Yeah. I mean, to me, like I said, the you can't go wrong with the McCaffrey. You just can't. Like, if you draft him, you're not going to get a guy that completely busts out. You know what I mean? Like, Gurley, there is some risk there. There's the risk that this is actually something serious and that he can't play anymore. With Zeke, there's a risk that, he's too fat to play.
Chick-fil-A.
He's been eating Chick-fil-A too much. I don't know. But it's like, Barkley, Kamara, and McCaffrey are the 3 backs in the top 5 of our rankings that I kind of feel like, okay, this guy is a sure thing. There's nothing really wrong with it. Even Zeke, you can throw into that conversation of being, you can't go wrong with him. And I think that's why he's going higher, because there is no real injury history with him. He's small and he can take a hit, and like, he has strength, he has power, he has the ability, and he's consistent, and like all of that stuff. So I think that's why he's getting catapulted into the top 4. But where do I think he's going to finish this year? I think he's going to finish 5 or 6. Just because I think the ceiling he can't crack is
which is
the
still
top
very
4,
good, though.
Which is still very good. Number 6, we reversed these.
Yeah.
For a while, Melvin Gordon was my 4th guy. He's the 5th guy on my ranking, 6th guy on your ranking. Our ranking is 6. ECR is number 5, which I was kind of surprised by, but that's only because Todd Gurley's at 7.
Yeah, so everybody's like moved up a spot.
Yeah. So, but anyway, Melvin Gordon is a guy that I absolutely love. His only concern that I need to temper myself with excitement, because I love Melvin Gordon. The only concern with Melvin Gordon is the fact that he does get injured relatively randomly. There was a week earlier in the season, I think I played the team that had Melvin Gordon on this week, but they were playing in London.
Oh, yeah, and I had the backup Chargers running back.
Yeah,
I got
Austin
lit.
Eckler.
Yeah.
But so no one was awake at the time to pay attention to the London game, and they didn't change out Melvin Gordon, so the Chargers game just started.
Yeah.
And so they ended up getting screwed in the end because they didn't wake up in time for it. Melvin Gordon is this guy who, and there wasn't any, like, throughout the entire week, there wasn't any reason to believe that Melvin Gordon wasn't gonna play, and he just didn't play.
Oh, yeah, there was no, like...
It was like, what? They said,
injury report was, like, probable.
Yeah, it was probable, and then he just didn't play, and it was like, why didn't he play? And I don't know what was wrong.
And he was out for 2 weeks, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was out for 2 weeks.
Or 2 or 3 weeks.
He played 14 games, and he finished as I think it was the number 6 running back. He averages, literally, when I say averages, like, a lot of people, like, Tyreek Hill scored, 250, 300 fantasy points, something ridiculous, and he averaged a specific amount. But on a week-to-week basis, he busted. Some of these running backs do the exact same thing. Melvin Gordon literally gets 18 to 20 fantasy points every single week.
Yeah.
Like, he is the most consistent running back of this entire list besides what Todd Gurley was last year. Like, even Barkley. Barkley had games where he had 8 or 9 points. Kamara had games where he had
McCaffrey had a slow
games.
start to the year.
McCaffrey had a slow start to the year. Zeke had, like, games where he had 8 to 10 points. You know what I mean? Like, Todd Gurley had 1 game last year that he busted, and the second most consistent running back, I think, on our consistency rankings was Melvin Gordon.
Yeah.
And so had he played those 2 other games, he would have finished in the top 3. He's a guy that you can get with your 6th, 7th, maybe even your 8th pick in the first round. And if he stays healthy and he stays on the field, I think he's almost a lock to be in the top 4 of running backs. But it's just I think the reason why he's always been the 6th running back off the board and he couldn't leap forward is because he always misses 2 to 4 games a season.
Yeah.
And that's why I need to temper myself, because if he misses 2 games that I need him, i.e. playoffs and championship,
right,
that hurts. So that's why I have Melvin at 5. I really like him. He's one of the guys that I would draft him ahead of Christian McCaffrey.
Boo. No, I mean, that just shows to my point, though, of you can't go wrong with these running backs. I like Melvin Gordon a lot, and I have him ranked 6th.
Yeah.
Like, that means you're, in my opinion, 6 really, really good running backs in this upcoming draft for this year.
Yeah.
I mean, Melvin Gordon is talented. As you said, he's consistent, similar to the other backs that are going ahead of him, in my opinion, or ranked ahead of him.
Yeah.
And I do like him. But as you said, injuries are a concern, and he is almost a lock to miss 2 or 3 games every year. It's insane.
It's true.
Like,
it just depends on which game.
Has he ever had a
I don't think so.
Major injury? I don't think so either. But he's every single year.
Season he misses like 1, 2, 3 games,
and it's always a game where you need him.
Kind of need him,
know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of one of the reasons, and I love McCaffrey. But those are 2 reasons why I have him ranked 6 and not 5. But still, like, if I'm sitting there at the 6th overall pick, and those other 5 guys that we just talked about are off the board.
Gone,
I'm very, very happy with taking Melvin Gordon there.
Number 7 on our list is David Johnson.
Wow.
That was ridiculously loud.
That's the second time you've done that.
Yeah, second time I've done that all time. So maybe I should not have my phone awake. David Johnson, number 7 on our ranking. He is we both agreed on the rank. 7 and 7, and then ECR is 6. David Johnson in recent weeks has taken a massive leap into the top 10 of running backs. He was 12, now he's 11, then he was 9, now he's now he's 7.
I think he started at like 14.
Yeah, somewhere around there. He is now the 6th ranked running back.
Wow.
He is getting drafted right now, ECR, ahead of Todd Gurley at pick 107. So I'm sitting here thinking about drafting Johnson in the 2nd round.
Getting hyped.
What an amazing pick would that be?
Oh yeah.
And now everyone literally,
your hopes and dreams are crushed.
So here's my problem with DJ, and we put him at 7 because I don't know. I want to take him ahead of Le'Veon Bell. This is a hard one for me. I might.
You're very tempted right now.
I've been thinking about moving David Johnson further down in my rankings, and I'm getting those same eerie feelings that I did last year. And I'll tell you really quickly a couple of things that were absolutely stunning to me that I found out when I looked into some of the numbers. If you go over to playerprofiler.com and look at the advanced metrics, he was like 60th in juke rate. He was like 60th in yards created after contact. Literally, he was like 40 to 60 in ranked 40 to 60 in every single category last year.
These are advanced nerd
These
metrics.
are advanced nerd metrics, yes. But everyone says, the only way running backs succeed is with their offensive line, right?
Yeah.
And that's generally what it is. There are some statistics that people have created that just running backs can create, that just running backs can control. And David Johnson was not a good running back last year. If you watch him, even though he finished in the top 10, I think he had like 3.7 yards a carry. Like, he was just not good. And my concern is
crappy offense, though.
Very crappy offense. So I take that away from him. I don't take much away from him, but that makes me a little bit nervous. Now, I would take him maybe ahead of the next couple guys. I haven't statted David Johnson out to kind of figure out where he might land on my ranking, like my draft board when we get to August. But as a first round running back, is David Johnson worth the risk?
He is, but it's less. Like, I feel less good
like
about it.
In the 2nd round, I felt great.
Yeah.
Now he's jumped into the first round.
Exactly. You're taking David Johnson with your 2nd pick.
Yeah.
Feels nice. Now you're taking him in the first round, and you're like, I'd still do it though. I do think this is where I think the top tier drops off. I think those first 6 guys we talked about are like the legitimate elite group of running backs. Yeah. And then it gets to these guys where it's like David Johnson and other guys we'll be talking about. But I do like David Johnson. And I love him in this new offensive system that they have, right? Where it's just pure offense,
hold offense,
and rookie quarterback, defense. Which means they're probably going to run it a lot, which is what you've seen in the past with other rookie quarterbacks. I mean, we'll see, but I do like David Johnson, not nearly as much as Melvin Gordon and McCaffrey and all those other guys.
I'll say this last thing: I think people need to temper their excitement. I have to for Todd Gurley.
He's flying up right now on the boards.
Just relax. Just let him fall back a little bit. You're ruining my freaking drafts next fall. Number 8, we have Le'Veon Bell. I ranked him 10. You ranked him 8. We got to move quickly through the last 3 here. The ECR is 8. So you agreed with the experts. I, however, moved him back a few spots.
Why is that, boss?
He has been bouncing between 8, 7, and 10 for me for like months. I'm seeing Le'Veon Bell do a ton of work, but the situation is like if he was with Pittsburgh, I'd feel good.
Mm-hmm.
He's with the Jets.
That's true.
And that makes me nervous. If he completely blows in New York, like this is going to be a draft pick that you do late first round, and then you're like, oh, I shouldn't have drafted him. I had these options on the board. And like, that's just when I look at Le'Veon Bell, that's the picture of what I see. Now,
are you getting haunted from last year?
I am a little bit, but if you go search Le'Veon Bell on Instagram. If you search Le'Veon Bell on Instagram, you watch his Instagram stories, you watch his feed, literally 6 hours a day, he's either in the gym or on a field working out. So he's there, mentally, physically, he's gonna be there.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that. Don't worry about he had a whole year off. My concern is just the fact that he's in the Jets offense, and it's he's not gonna be utilized like I statted out the Pittsburgh Steelers, and James Conner is going to get a ton of work. A lot more than Le'Veon Bell would. I just don't know if they're going to use him the way that we all think they are.
I mean, I think your concerns are valid because it's the Jets, but
Adam Gase likes to.
Yes, Adam Gase is
ruin our lives.
Look at Kenyon Drake. I mean,
yeah,
that's all you have to say.
Right.
But for me, Le'Veon Bell is just good enough where I think he will get the carries with the Jets.
Right.
You're not going to pay him that much money, and kind of everybody knew he was going to be a New York Jet for the last 6 months.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, the expectations within the organization is to give Le'Veon Bell the ball.
Yeah.
I think they will, and I think he's a good enough running back where he will succeed in that spot. But you are right. Picking him at the end of the first round and missing out on those other guys, and you take him and he's a bust, that's gonna hurt.
Yeah. I do think where you're getting him, I think he will finish as a low-end RB1 next year. I just because of the amount of volume that he got with the Pittsburgh Steelers compared to the volume that he's going to get with the Jets, it's completely different. And it's your people are going to draft Bell thinking he's going to jump to that number 1 spot, and he's not. It's just not going to happen. So he might finish in the top 6.
Bell's going to be one of these guys that, in some leagues he's going top 5, in other leagues he's going 16th because everybody's scared.
It's true. So Bell, for me, I think he's a low-end RB1. I think this is the perfect spot for him, 8. I actually would consider moving him even to 10. Actually, I do rank him at 10. So on our rankings, he's 8. So I think, to me, I have to put him at 10 because I think there's 10 guys ahead of him that are better options. Joe Mixon, Cincinnati Bengals running back. I ranked him 8. You ranked him 9. ECR ranked him 10. I really like Joe Mixon, and I'll tell you why. Really fast.
Yes.
Joe Mixon was in a system last year where he was utilized as a workhorse, but he wasn't utilized heavily in that offense. The thing I absolutely love about Joe Mixon is the fact that they signed head coach Zach Taylor. Zach Taylor is basically going to run the Rams offense. That's what he's going to do.
He's going to attempt it at least.
And when you look at the Rams offense, 48% of the time they run the football. 48% of the time. So
in the modern NFL,
that's a lot of running. He's going to get a similar amount of touches. Now, I'm not saying he's going to get the exact amount of touches that Todd Gurley got last year, but he's going to get a similar amount. I think he could finish with 300-plus touches. And if he does do that, Joe Mixon will finish as a top 4 back.
I mean, it's crazy, but it's not crazy at the same time.
No, and a lot of people are going to be like, oh my God, Joe Mixon. The fact that I can sit here and justifiably say Joe Mixon could be a top 5-4 back next year if they utilize him the way that the Rams utilize Todd Gurley, and you can get him at pick 202.
Yeah.
You could legitimately pick Le'Veon Bell or Melvin Gordon or David Johnson or Todd Gurley at 8 and then pick up Joe Mixon the very next round.
Imagine getting
Todd Gurley and Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
That's literally
It's
literally stealing the entire draft.
my only concern with Joe Mixon, I think he's similar to Melvin Gordon.
Yeah.
Where he's probably almost guaranteed to get injured for at least like a week or two.
No, it's true.
Which I think is a concern, but when he's out
That's
there,
that's why he's 8 on my board.
yeah. But I mean, even look at last year when he's playing, he's good.
He's really
really good.
Yeah, really good. I tried very many times to get him.
Unsuccessfully.
Yeah, unsuccessfully. Number 10, James Conner, the final guy on this list. Really quickly running through this. I have him ranked 8. You have him ranked 10, ECR 9. So we're all kind of in the same region. I think James Conner I think he's going to be a better running back than Le'Veon Bell.
Okay.
And I think that when I look at James Conner and when you look at the numbers they gave Le'Veon Bell when he was in Pittsburgh and the numbers he got last year, I think that last year when I was statting out the Pittsburgh Steelers, this is what I ran into. They passed it a lot. And it was because they were down most of the time. Like they lost leads very early. Ben Roethlisberger threw it the most he's ever in his career. He's thrown it over 600 times, 3 times in his entire career. You know the amount of attempts that he had before this season, the most amount of attempts he had?
What was it?
612. This year he had 675 passing attempts.
Wow.
They passed it 689 times as a team. In the past, they usually only pass like 590. So if you work that all out and they always run around 1,030 plays, if you break that down and you split it, and they do their normal split is usually 58-42. You do that, James Conner will finish ahead of Le'Veon Bell. He's going to finish probably ahead of David Johnson. He'll probably finish, if Melvin Gordon doesn't stay on the field like we expect, he'll probably finish ahead of him. He might finish in the top 5. And that is, this is coming from a guy who doesn't really like James Conner. So, I mean, just because of the sheer volume and the amount that they'll give him the ball, that's why I have him ranked ahead of some of these guys. I don't, like I said, I wouldn't draft him in the top 5 or top 6 just because there's a risk that he could absolutely bust. But who's sitting behind him? Benny Snell? You're really scared of Benny Snell, the 5th round draft pick?
I like James Conner a lot. You know that. I just think...
You know that, I know that, they know that.
I think Joe Mixon's ceiling is a little higher than Conner's.
Yeah, I agree.
And Le'Veon Bell, I think... It's going to be close between those two. Honestly, I think all 4 of these guys, I'd say David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell, Mixon, and Conner are all very similar. I think you can go any order with these guys. But, yeah, exactly, the tier 2 running backs. But with Conner, my slight concern is how much they did throw the ball last year, honestly. And I think they could keep... I don't think they will, but it's in the back of my mind where it's like, they could be losing again.
Yeah, right.
They got a little better, but they also traded Antonio Brown.
The way that I look at it is that even if they throw it 615 times next year, there's still a lot of production left for James Conner.
Though did, I mean, and I was a big believer in James Conner last year, but he did have a few games where he didn't look.
He wasn't the best.
He wasn't that.
This just really quick before we finish the show, I statted him out for around 1,200 rushing yards, about 700 receiving yards, and 14 total touchdowns, which puts him at 260 to 270 standard fantasy points, 295 to 300 half PPR, which puts him in the top 3. That's just with 433 runs, and James Conner getting I think that's 32% of the carries. Just the running carries, which is crazy. So he'd only have 260 carries. The efficiency there, everything there, it makes a lot more sense to me to have James Conner listed a little bit higher. Okay. But that will do it for our top 10 running backs. Be sure to listen on Thursday for our 11 to 20 running backs. You got any closing thoughts for us?
My closing thought is no matter what you do in this first round, look at Christian McCaffrey's biceps and then make a decision.
Talk to you Thursday, Fantasy Champs.
Peace out.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.